When questions stop, accountability fades. When only one version is accepted, important details can disappear. When missing evidence goes unchallenged, the record is left incomplete. Consider this. What if the truth isn't gone, just kept out of reach? What if Tyler Robinson witnessed more than he ever disclosed, and Charlie Kirk's fate was tied to what wasn't said? This isn't about telling a story, it's about bringing one into view. Long before the headlines and the gunfire, there were private moments when someone could have spoken, warned, or intervened. But no one did. And if Tyler Robinson was aware of something that never surfaced publicly, then this isn't only a story of violence. It becomes a story of what was left unsaid, of hesitation, of withheld information, and of a narrative shaped as much by silence as by facts. By the time this is laid out, the question may shift. It may no longer be just about what happened to Charlie Kirk, but about who chose not to reveal the full picture, and why Tyler Robinson's name continues to hover at the edges of the conversation. So before we go any further, consider this. When silence takes the place of truth, it doesn't just hide what happened, it shapes it. Before we dive into today's story, kindly subscribe to our Shadow Detective channel if you believe in fighting for justice. Kindly help us reach 300 subscribers, and we believe that with energy and support, we will achieve it. Let's build this community that refuses to stay silent, to stop asking the hardest question of all, but why? Every view, every comment, and every subscriber is a stand against silence and a step toward truth for those who can't fight for themselves. Charlie Kirk wasn't just another name in the news, he became the focal point. A figure people attached their fears, beliefs, and assumptions to. Once his identity was connected to the incident, the discussion stopped being theoretical. It became immediate and personal. His presence made the situation feel consequential. The shooting, or the attempt on his life, was seen by many as more than a moment of violence. It suggested that someone wanted a voice removed, and with that came strong reactions: concern, anger, speculation, and loyalty. But tension doesn't take shape around one person alone. That's where Tyler Robinson enters the picture. Not clearly defined as innocent or guilty, and not framed as a central character, but existing in the space between. Close enough to raise questions, distant enough to leave those questions unanswered. Someone who might have seen, heard, or known something before events unfolded. There was no need to formally assign him a role. His proximity did that on its own, placing him in a position where coincidence could be interpreted any number of ways. A figure in the background, perhaps a witness, someone nearby at the right or wrong moment. Maybe the last person to hear Charlie speak. Maybe the first to sense that something was coming. It's unlikely his name surfaced by coincidence. It's worth noticing how the most relevant recordings are often the ones that don't surface. There's plenty of attention on what was reported, what people claim to have heard, and how events were expected to play out. But there's far less focus on what never reached the public. That absence raises its own questions. Before Charlie Kirk went on stage, long before the cameras focused on him, his equipment would have been checked. Standard procedure means someone tests the audio, someone clips the mic, and a test recording is made. There is almost always an initial capture. So where is it? Was any part of his last conversation documented? Did a camera catch him preparing? Was staff present? Were backups running? Was a production team monitoring the feed? Those are the details that matter, not just what was seen, but what quietly went missing. There are now claims that certain camera angles were never shown, that some shots were removed, and that a number of frames don't appear in any of the footage made public, including the clips that surfaced later. That leads to questions that haven't been clearly addressed. Who handled the equipment before it was attached to him? Was it checked, replaced, or passed through multiple hands off camera? Who reviewed the recordings afterward? Why were some angles released immediately, while others are unaccounted for? Who approved the edits? Because footage doesn't simply disappear. It's either removed, withheld, mislabeled, or archived in a way that keeps it out of circulation. Attention has largely stayed on what happened on stage. But if there was any interference, If anything was planted or altered, those answers would exist in the moments before the appearance began. The mic test, the hallway cameras, the tech station, and any seconds that were never shown publicly. And if any of that material still exists, then someone made a conscious decision not to release it. People don't conceal what has no impact. They hold back what might explain more than they're ready to acknowledge. Until the missing clips are accounted for, the full sequence of events remains incomplete. What we're left with is a version of the story shaped by what was included and what was left out. And it's worth noticing how certain names never appear in the headlines, yet remain close enough to the narrative to suggest they were always nearby. Tyler Robinson. Not the public face on the stage, but the name that drifts through conversations quietly, without resolution. Not formally accused. Not fully cleared. Simply present, a difficult place to be when details don't add up. Look at it the way investigators might. Tyler wasn't a random bystander. He wasn't a stranger to the setting. He had proximity access, possibly some level of involvement. That's why his name circulates softly instead of being spoken outright. Now consider the questions that follow. Was he present when the mic pack was checked? Was he behind a camera, managing a feed, or close enough to hear something sensitive? Was he the last non-technical person to see Charlie before the appearance began? Or, and here speculation grows louder, was he in possession of footage that never became public? Because rumors rarely emerge without context. Some say Tyler had a view or recording angle that others didn't, that he was positioned during the final setup, that what he saw, or captured, hasn't been shown. And yet nothing attributed to him appears anywhere. Not in official files, not in leaks, not even in the fragmented clips circulating online. So what happened? Was something taken? Was it handed over? Did he stay silent, or was he silenced? You don't have to label someone a suspect to turn them into a question mark. All you need is a person linked to something that should exist, but doesn't. Tyler might be innocent. He might be frightened. He might know more than he wants to admit. But here's the simple truth. If anyone captured Charlie's last moments before that mic went live, Tyler is the one most likely to have seen it. Until we know what he had, or who told him to bury it. His silence isn't neutral. It's part of the story. You don't always need a confession to show involvement. Sometimes all it takes is access, and a missing piece. And Tyler Robinson, he's that missing piece, the one they're counting on you to forget. Understand this, silence doesn't make someone innocent. It makes them useful. Every time the public shrugs and says, maybe there's nothing more to it, someone behind the curtain breathes easier. Every unasked question is a favor to whoever's holding the missing footage. Every time you accept the edited version of events, you're helping bury the unedited one. They're counting on fatigue, on distraction, on your assumption that someone else will dig deeper. That's how stories get rewritten, not by their power, but by your permission. Now tie that back to Charlie Kirk. If something was planted, if sabotage was real, and if Tyler Robinson or anyone else sat on footage that could prove it, then every second you don't demand answers helps seal the lid. You're not just watching a cover-up. By default, you're participating in it. Here's the part no one likes to admit. If someone was forced into silence, if evidence was buried, if the narrative was locked in before questions could be asked, then the public isn't a bystander. It's the perfect accomplice, quiet, distracted, convinced it already knows enough. Withholding information isn't the real crime. The real crime is how easy it is to get you to look away, until the missing pieces are dragged into the light. You're not outside the story. You're part of the machinery that keeps the truth buried. You want to know how conspiracy takes root? It doesn't begin with wild claims. It begins with missing answers. Give the public a blank space, and they'll start filling it in themselves. And in this case, the blank space is wide enough to bury a body, a motive, and a hard drive. The moment whispers of a remote bomb in the mic pack surfaced, confirmation almost didn't matter anymore, because the conditions that feed that theory were already in place. Missing footage, unnamed handlers, unanswered questions, a timeline patched together with assumptions, add a shadow name like Tyler Robinson into the mix. someone with proximity, maybe access to unseen recordings. And suddenly the speculation stops feeling like fiction. It starts feeling like the only explanation no one wants to verify. From there, the narrative snowballs. What if the explosion, or malfunction or interference, wasn't an accident? What if the mic pack was tampered with off camera? What if the footage that could prove it was scrubbed before anyone outside the circle could see it? This is where it gets dangerous. Once people believe evidence is being hidden, every denial sounds like confirmation. Every official statement starts to look rehearsed. Every missing clip becomes proof of intent. That's how rumors stop being rumors. They become stand-ins for silence. And until someone produces the uncut feed, the raw audio, the missing angles, speculation will keep growing unchecked. Why wouldn't it? The truth only hides this hard when someone benefits from the darkness. If there's nothing to cover up, you don't board up the windows. You don't get disappearing footage, strategic silence, and whisper campaigns without motive. Somebody always gains when the truth goes missing. The question is, who benefits if Charlie Kirk's story stays fractured? Start with power. Charlie Kirk wasn't a background voice. He was amplified, polarizing, protected. If his fall wasn't an accident but an operation, then whoever engineered it knew exactly what it would do: create a vacancy, generate chaos, and tighten control over the narrative. Now enter Tyler Robinson. Not as an attacker, not as a hero, but as a link. The kind of person who may never act, but might know. If he held footage, if he overheard a conversation, if he saw equipment exchanged, then he's not just a bystander. He's a liability, or an asset, depending on how quiet he stays. Because here's the part most people miss. Suppressed footage doesn't just bury the past, it protects someone's future. Think about who handles media clearance, who archives the recordings, who decides what's too sensitive for the public. Those people don't work in isolation. They take direction, and direction means intent. Ask yourself, was Charlie stepping on the wrong toes? Was someone threatened by what he planned to reveal? Was eliminating him, or rewriting the circumstances of his downfall, more useful than confronting him? And what about Tyler? Is he the silent witness they're keeping close? The reluctant accomplice who knows too much? The disposable name they'll pin it on if the truth leaks? You don't need a grand conspiracy to hide a crime, just a handful of people with access and a reason to shut the door. The power dynamic is simple. One man is gone, one man is silent, and someone else is writing the script in their place. Until the missing evidence resurfaces, every quiet figure in this story becomes part of the power play, whether they chose it or not. So here we are, standing inside a narrative, built on cuts, rumors, and silence. And the people who know the most, they're either gone, or they've closed their mouths. You think that's coincidence? If Charlie Kirk's death, or disappearance, or sabotage, or whatever version they're selling, traces back to that mic pack, then the footage before that moment isn't just evidence, it's leverage. And the fact that it's missing isn't a mystery, it's a message. Somebody made sure you'd never see it. And then there's Tyler Robinson, the name that drifts just outside the official timeline, close enough to matter, quiet enough to vanish. If he saw something, filmed something, heard something, and kept it buried, then he's not outside this story. He's sewn into it. Here's what no one wants to say out loud. If you stop asking questions, they win. If you accept the edited version, you become part of the cover-up. If you don't demand the missing footage, you're signing off on the rewrite. So I'll leave you with this. What's more dangerous? What happened to Charlie Kirk? Or what someone is working so hard to keep hidden about it? Until the suppressed files see daylight, everyone remains under suspicion, especially the ones who insist they have nothing to explain. And if Tyler Robinson still holds something he hasn't revealed, then the truth isn't lost. It's being kept.